Come one, come all, come on down to the Honkai Impact Emporium where you can see rare, fabled, and once forgotten sights only here. Amazing wonders such as new player depression, broken controllers and keyboards over 1 second difference, and even your favorite lollies turned into now your favorite MILFs with the power of Honkai magic. So, don't be scared and come on in. A new patch has come and so has I, Lind. Theresa has finally gotten her upgrade and joined the ranks of Valkyries that have become the new sauce. With how many people that have been waiting for this day, you'd be surprised if someone hasn't called Chris Hansen yet. Don't be surprised though, because we got a whole other batch of TCAP cooking for next patch. With each and every passing day, we move closer and closer to the beautiful, sacred day when Honkai finally updates to patch 7.3 and we get version 2.0 of the engine along with a brand spanking new UI that looks amazing as ever. F the haters. Sadly though, that isn't today. However, with a brand new patch brings a brand new Valkyrie, and you know what that means. Time for more information overload, boys. So, throw away that black venom goop into the garbage, grab a nice bag of chips or popcorn, and sit back with some Star Rail and Genshin in the background as I, Jayniro, your Pepega Twitch streamer guide, take you all on a journey to the 2 brand new mountain peaks of Theresa Lunar Vow. As I've talked about before, Honkai has finally decided to start innovating again and exploring different methods of dealing damage and battlesuit mechanics as well. Lunar Vow is absolutely no exception to this. Since we've seen his trend of dot damage making a comeback in full swing, Theresa revs this up even further by dealing lightning damage that also bleeds. So rather than seeing tons of stunning through Paralyze, instead she prevents enemies from moving by turning the entire battlefield into the next Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But you wouldn't even be able to tell this since instead of wielding a cross like all other Theresas in the past, this one wields a pair of
humongous hungalonga no no loganga.
Chainsaws. Succubus Yandere Kirito over here wields 2 chainsaws instead of 1 for mass carnage and destruction capabilities while on the field. She mainly deals damage by slashing enemies with her 4-sequence basic attack, ending off and revving her chainsaws to build up Biting Mark. Meanwhile, her QTE can also restore Biting Mark. It triggers off of Time Fracture or when a teammate uses weapon active or deals damage with a combo attack. And then Theresa, of course, can jump in and stab enemies and turn their insides into shredded beef by extending the slashing in the same manner. After her N4 or QTE hits enemies 17 times, Theresa can follow up with her combo attack that deals massive lightning damage and also grants her Iron Body and damage reduction. The final way she can restore Biting Mark is through her evasion skill. After dodging an attack, alternate evasion triggers global time fracture for 3 seconds and restoring 50 Biting Mark. This, though, can be connected into sprinting, which is reminiscent of past Himiko Valkyries who will surely get another suit soon, which restores 120 Biting Mark per second. But you may be wondering exactly, what is Biting Mark since we've now mentioned it across 4 different attributes of her battlesuit? Biting Mark is gender-bent Kirito's own meter mechanic that lets her go full Chainsaw Man on enemies. When her meter isn't maxed, Biting Mark decreases by 30 every second, but holding down the weapon active revs the chainsaw and increases Biting Mark by 20 every 0.2 seconds. After maxing it out via the various methods we've discussed, Leatherface here can activate the frenzy state by pressing the weapon active, but gains a special 100% total damage boost when prompted to press it. In the frenzy state, Bloodlusted Asta can violently swing her chainsaws by tapping weapon active, with each slash consuming Biting Mark and subsequently swinging faster. Each of these slashes inflicts bleed trauma, and she gains Iron Body and an 80% damage reduction while doing this. When Biting Mark is fully depleted or weapon active is held during this time, she stabs the ground with her chainsaws, pulls in enemies dealing damage, and then thrusts upward to deal a large amount of damage before ending and exiting Frenzy state. With becoming the female incarnation of Denji, it's easy to get lost in all her sauce. What the fuck? And all the ripping and tearing like Toonkai. The last part of her kit is the most brutal and blood-curdling though. Underneath the light of a blood moon, Theresa splits her chainsaw and crosses the chain blades across the throat of her enemies. Holding the ultimate button accelerates the lacerations of the chains and increases its damage. After the chainsaw deals damage 45 times, Theresa rips the chainsaws through her target, rushing through them under the guise of the blood moon for massive lightning damage. Just like most Valkyries in modern time, during her ultimate, she's invincible and triggers Time Frozen Domain. In order to maximize all the carnage that Carnage over here is going to be causing, we do need to talk about exactly how to gear her. For a lot of characters lately within the game, we've been constantly fed the unfortunate news that there aren't very good alternatives for the gear they equip, since what they do has been so niche and the weapon types have been so either underwhelming or non-existent. Luckily for this boobatastic girl, this isn't much of an issue. Her signature cross ordinarily deploys a cross that increases lightning damage dealt by 50% and gives the Valkyrie an effect that increases their total damage from bleed damage by 2%, stacking up to 5 times. However, though, on Lunar Vow specifically, she doesn't really utilize weapon active skills. Instead, when equipped on her specifically, when she enters Frenzy mode, a bat is summoned that follows the on-field character and triggers all the effects of the weapon active mentioned previously. When Lunar Vow is in the team, enemies in this effect gain 1 bleed trauma per second, and the multiplier on the last hit of her ultimate increases by 300%. The Prior's passive additionally increases the total damage of the wielder's combo attack by 20% and an additional 30% when it's equipped on Lunar Vow alone. Of course, her signature gear is going to be her best in slot, but that doesn't mean there aren't some pretty nice alternatives. If you've been playing for some time now, there might be a chance you have some alternative weapons here. Mobius' weapon is pretty decent if you're looking for a Priarm that can synergize pretty well with the fact that Theresa is a lightning type damage Valkyrie. While not being able to specifically activate the weapon skill, she can still benefit from the passives that grant her 45% more lightning damage and increase her combo attack's total damage by 30%. Crusader's Cross is okay since the passive increases the wielder's combo attack and ultimate total damage by 35% while also increasing the bleed damage by 20%. This is good because, as we stated before, damage dealt by Theresa's QTE, weapon active, and ultimate all count as bleed damage. Other than that, the fabled 4-star weapon that everyone loves to death makes a return as a really good alternative for her, that being Oath of Judah. This is really because the passive has a chance to mark enemies with a brand for 6 seconds, and marked enemies take more lightning damage from every hit taken during those 6 seconds, meaning that if bleed is triggered frequently enough, the added damage from this can stack up pretty quickly. The Darkness Illuminated set also aims to exponentially increase Theresa's damage. The set as a whole aims to massively increase Theresa's damage through standard lightning and total damage buffs, but also increasing damage further when bleeding enemies. The set bonuses lean further into this by granting more total and lightning damage dealt, lightning damage taken, and SP generated when the B piece effect of dealing bleed damage takes effect. This isn't the only possible set to run for her though. Running the top and mid pieces from Eponia's Stigmata set function really well with her, especially when used in conjunction with Shazan B. Running a full Handel set as well can prove decent, but just know that you won't be getting the full buffs from it until Theresa casts her ultimate. In addition, this means that you'll have to run something more akin to like Turg TB PPM on Eden, which isn't that much of an issue at all, but you can't trigger multiple Handel effects in the same team. Only one set can take effect at a single time. Mobius, shut up! Mobius' set doesn't really make sense for her in the short run and the long run as well, especially since her set as a whole revolves around summoned entities and utilizing them to gain buffs for the team, and Theresa doesn't really have any summoned entities outside of the bat that she summons from her weapon active, specifically when she enters the frenzy state. So the only piece I would recommend even considering using out of her set would be the B piece in place of Shazam B, solely for the 36% bonus lightning damage on basics and combo attacks. The last thing in order to truly make Theresa great again, apart from giving her a massive set of Dobon Honkaroos, is giving her a great team to work with. Okay, so this is hopefully the last time I'm going to have to look at this god-awful team select screen, since the amazing new UI is coming with Crusader Skywalker next patch. So just bear with me and how janky this looks, because, well, this is all you and I got. Anyways, being the latest lightning damage dealer in the game, Theresa has some nice compañeros to work with and aid her on the battlefield. Apart from the trio Hersher team, until part 2 of Honkai hits, we unfortunately are still in a solo damage carry double support meta. At least I think we are. I have nothing to go off of other than the footage that was shown. Hoyo, please don't unalive me. Luckily for Miss Succubus from a cultured anime over there, the lightning category for supports is pretty fleshed out as of now. Traditionally, we're looking at running the main support with HTR since she's so huge. At least she will be, or already is. Depends on which game you're coming from. Actually, wait, that doesn't hold up. Regardless, if you don't have HDR, then, well, you should pull HDR. Luckily, for other supports, our options aren't empty. Eden is the stable lightning-specific support due to her large buffs and fast team rotation, because she'd be rotating on me fast if you know what I'm saying, brother. Using them in conjunction means the standard rotation that I denoted in my HCR and HO guide stands. I'm not really sure which one of those two guides mentioned the rotation, but you should go check it out regardless. I think it's probably HOO guide. That being, well, full skill rotation on HCR, UTE on Eden into her ultimate, and then rotate onto Theresa. Fischl as well is pretty fantastic and can be rad, so if you use her in place of HTR, rotate with her before Eden, and if you use her in place of Eden, more than likely, then rotate her after HTR. FR, aka Fallen Rosemary, also works pretty well here, but she is a little bit dated at this point unless you have her Priarm, which makes her feel a lot better in more ways than one. Okay, this is post-recording Jay. I just want to say as well, I forgot to mention something that I meant to mention in the guide. Griseo is also a viable option since she does deal bleed damage. However, Griseo's buffs are solely around total damage and bleed damage. There's no lightning damage buffing within her kit because, of course, she's a physical damage dealer. And she'll be better when her Skywalker version comes out next patch, but since she's basically power creeping herself. But she is the lesser of all the lightning damage type options since a standard lightning damage buff is going to be more than a bleed buff in all honesty. With this patch being the CN and SCA anniversary patch, a spending event is made available for players, which means a high chance that some of y'all might be ending up going for ranks on Seg's Demon Theresa, especially if you want this Silverwing outfit. Bro, all I see from this outfit when I look at it is straight... A lot of her ranks are straight damage increases to her kit, so it's definitely something to consider. Her S1 here raises the skill cap on her passive that grants Elemental Breach to the team, which is crucial in the endgame and will more than likely be a necessity if you're competing in Nirvana. But I'd argue further down is even more crucial in all honesty. Her S2 increases the team's lightning damage by 30% after entering Frenzy mode for 16 seconds and can be refreshed by re-triggering the skill or switching in a character. So if you mess up your rotation, all might not be lost necessarily other than a time decrease, since you can keep this up by rotating through your characters and hopping back on Theresa quickly enough. That is, well, before she hops on you. S3 is her leader skill cap increase, which buffs the team's lightning damage and bleed damage. S doubles her ultimate lightning damage and also increases the level cap on her passive mentioned earlier in her S1, which increases hers and the team's elemental breach for lightning damage. S1 though is where I'd see most Nirvana competitors probably stopping if they're not going all the way for S, as surprisingly, this is where Hoyu decided to put the SP buff in the rank up chain, at least the first one. This raises the level cap on her passive that restores SP for Theresa after dealing bleed damage when she's on standby. S2 raises the skill cap on her passive that increases teammates' total damage when the team has different battlesuit typing. Just want to say though that a 20% buff is nothing to snuff at, especially in endgame. S3 is the second leader skill increase, and S makes her combo attack deal 50% more lightning damage and also unlocks another skill that increases her starting SP by 40%. This is definitely what the top 50 Myriad competitors are going to go for, since that 40 additional SP can mean a lot since it takes quite a bit to generate SP. If you're looking to fill out your character roster some more, I think Theresa is a fantastic pickup, especially since she's pretty free to play friendly. Bringing dots back into the game in full swing has honestly been a fresh of breath air. Wait, did I just type that? I mean breath of fresh air. My brain has honestly been fried for like the past month at this point, so I'm sorry for all the repetitive big booba jokes, but in all honesty, that's all that seems to be in my face right now, including Bronya's pair. Especially with Luke Skywalker coming next patch and literally power creeping herself. In addition, this is stemming from being super down bad for Spider-Man 2, which, in all honesty, has been one of the greatest games I've ever played so far. So let me know what your guys' favorite Spider-Man suit is down in the comments below. Kind of funny though, as the perfect thing to go with all these mountains in my face is 19 inches of venom shoved right in between them.